The phone rang sharp, slicing through the kitchen. I wiped my hands on the towel, answered, without checking. Nathan. Give me the pin, he said. Sierra found a dress she wants. And a pair of heels. Might as well get both. I blinked. You're using my card? We already did. But it declined. Guess it needs the right numbers. My stomach knotted. No. A pause. His voice dropped lower. Then when I get home, I'll show you what happens when a mother forgets her place. He hung up. I stood there, towel still in hand, like the floor had tilted beneath me. I checked the time. 2:47 p.m. He'd be back by 4:00. I locked the front door, then the back, then checked them again. The house felt colder, smaller, not mine. I sat down, but couldn't stay still. Got up, walked to the pantry, closed it, opened it again, checked my purse, took the card out, held it, pressed it against my chest. I thought about calling the police. Then I thought about what they'd say. Did he actually hit you, ma'am? No. Not yet. I poured black coffee. It sloshed. My hands were shaking. I didn't drink it. I walked down the hall past the room that used to be mine. It now held Sierra's office setup ring, light silk robe on the chair boxes of brand new skincare. I stepped inside. Just for a second. Just to feel it. I touched the edge of the desk. Then left. I sat in the corner of the kitchen beside the fridge. Small. Tucked away. Time moved slow. When the door opened at 4:12, I didn't flinch. I stood. Nathan walked in, keys jangling. No Sierra. He didn't speak. Just tossed the mail on the counter and walked past me straight to his room. I watched his back. Waited. But nothing came. No slap. No shove. Not even a glare. He just moved on. Like I wasn't even part of the story anymore. That should have felt like a relief. But it didn't. It felt worse. I sat back down. Hands still cold. I opened the drawer next to me. Inside, tucked beneath the box of napkins, was the old wallet I hadn't touched in years. My husband's photo peeked out. And beside it, something metal. A small key, heavy for its size. I held it up to the light. A number etched on the side. And a word I hadn't seen in years, only if needed. I locked the door, then checked it again. Pulled the chain, slid the bolt, tested the knob. The house creaked like it always did after 5 p.m., but every sound felt different. Louder, sharper, like the walls knew something was coming. I didn't eat dinner, just stood by the counter watching the clock. 5:12, 5:44, 6:03. My stomach growled once. I didn't answer it. Instead, I charged my phone, placed it face up on the table, turned the sound on. My fingers hovered over the emergency dial, then dropped. The sun slid down past the window. Shadows stretched across the floor. I didn't turn the lights on. I didn't want to be seen. At 6:39, tires crunched gravel. My heart jumped. I stood, picked up the phone, pressed my thumb to the side. Ready. Nathan's car door slammed. Footsteps. The porch creaked. Then the door rattled. A pause. A fist hit it once hard. I didn't move. He unlocked it himself. Of course he did. He still had his own key. The door swung open. He walked in all denim and heavy shoes, the kind that left marks. Slammed the door behind him. Didn't look at me. Didn't say a word. Just walked past. I was still in the corner. Still holding the phone. Still breathing like something might break. But he didn't turn. Didn't yell. Didn't touch me. He disappeared down the hall like I didn't exist. I stood there for a long time. Then sat. The silence pressed in. A kind of silence I'd never felt in my own house. It wasn't peace. It wasn't calm. It was erasure. I used to matter here. Used to pick the curtains, boil the coffee, fold the towels. Now I didn't even get a glance. I stayed in that chair until well past 9. The house was still. Not quiet, just still. That kind that happens after something dies. Eventually, I rose, stepped into the hallway. His door was shut. The hallway light was off. I moved to the bathroom, closed the door gently, brushed my teeth in the dark. When I came out, I didn't go to the guest room they gave me. I went to the garage, slid open the old cabinet, reached behind the stack of half-empty paint cans, pulled out the manila folder. The key was still in my pocket. I slid both into my handbag, then zipped it shut. Tomorrow, I'd visit the bank. I cracked the eggs fast. Flour spilled, sugar clumped. The mixer whined louder than usual. I didn't care. The kitchen filled with heat. Butter melted into batter. I scraped the bowl hard like something inside me needed out. Nathan's birthday, 38. When he was a boy, he liked yellow cake with dark chocolate frosting. So I made it, from scratch. Not because I had to, because I still remembered. By 5, it was cooling on the counter, the frosting set smooth, no air bubbles. I even lit a candle, just one for the sake of tradition. I knocked on their door. Sierra answered phone in hand. "Oh," she said, looking past me. "Nathan's restin'. He's tired. Big day." I held the plate up. "Just thought he'd want." She waved her hand. "Leave it on the table. I'll let him know." Then closed the door. I stood in the hallway, cake in hand, heat rising up my neck. Left it anyway. Went back to my room. I didn't hear a single sound all night. No thanks. No scrape of a fork. No candle blown out. Just the muffled thump of their TV. Laughter that didn't include me. The next morning I stepped outside early. Took the trash out before the sun crested over the roofline. Lifted the lid. There it was. The cake. Still whole. Still untouched. Face down in coffee grounds and old takeout containers. They hadn't even unwrapped the plastic wrap. I didn't cry. I just stared. Then dropped the trash bag and shut the lid and stood still in the driveway. A bird screeched above the fence. The wind picked up, tugged my sleeves. I thought about the years. How I worked overtime every fall to afford gifts. How I skipped dinners to pay for his class trips. How I spent 3 days making a dinosaur cake when he turned 6 because he said, "No store cake, Mom. It doesn't feel like home." This time, I gave him home. And he threw it in the trash. I walked back inside, washed the plate, scrubbed it harder than needed, dried it, and tucked it away. I didn't say a word. Not that day. Not the next. Not when Sierra asked if I'd do laundry since she was behind on self-care. Not when Nathan walked by and didn't look up from his phone. But that night, I pulled the key from my purse, held it in my palm, looked at the number again. I pulled out the folder, read every page line by line. Then I circled a name with red pen. Mr. Greer, account manager. Tomorrow, I'd call. The knock came at noon. Sierra's voice called out before I reached the door. "My parents are coming. Can you make some iced tea?" I didn't answer. Just moved to the kitchen. Boiled water. Added lemon. No one drank coffee but me anymore. They arrived loud. Perfume heavy. Her father's laugh hit the walls before he did. Her mother gave me the usual once-over eyes that skipped past me like I was part of the wallpaper. They didn't take off their shoes. Nathan came out of the bedroom and greeted them like royalty. All smiles, deep voice, loud compliments. He didn't even glance at me. I brought out the tea. Set the tray on the coffee table. That coffee table. My table. Sierra motioned to the kitchen bar. "Thanks, Mavis. You can sit over there. We just need space to catch up." I looked at the couch. 3 seats. All empty when I walked in. Now full. I didn't argue. I sat at the kitchen bar. My knees ached on the tall stool. I stirred my drink but didn't sip. They talked about Flight's renovations, a house in Palm Springs they almost bought. I caught pieces. None of it included me. The sofa used to be mine. I picked it out the same month Nathan turned 14. I remembered sitting on it with his father, debating fabric, hating the price, then buying it anyway. We'd called it too fancy for our simple house. That was the joke. Now it held other people's perfume and feet. They laughed louder, joked about making some changes to the place. Her dad said, "We could knock out this wall, make it more open concept." Nathan nodded like it wasn't absurd. No one looked at me. When they left, I stood to gather glasses. Sierra walked by, then paused. "Oh," she said like it had just occurred to her. "We're going to turn your room into a workspace for me." I blinked. What I need a quiet area for my clients. Just energy healing stuff. The lighting's better in there. That's my room. Sierra tilted her head. "Well, the guest room is still free. I made up the bed for you. Hope that's okay." She walked away. I stood in the hall that used to be mine, holding 3 half-empty glasses and a spoon. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling. Every shift in the house felt louder. Every word I hadn't said pressed down like weight on my chest. In the morning, I opened the closet. My things were gone, moved. I found them stacked neatly in the smaller room, the one with the stiff mattress and no lamp. They didn't ask. They just decided. I sat down, rubbed my knees, picked up the envelope again. This time, I didn't just circle a name. I dialed it. I emptied the drawer fast. Receipts, pens that didn't work, an old coin purse. I needed distraction, not purpose. At the bottom was my old wallet. The leather cracked along the seams still smelled like the last place it mattered, his coat pocket. I opened it. Tucked inside the photo sleeve behind his driver's license was something metal, a small key. I turned it in my hand. Heavy, cool, etched with numbers, and a word I hadn't seen in years, only if needed. I stared at it, heart thudding slow and steady. He never told me about it, but I remembered once, maybe 2 years before he passed, he said, "If things ever go south, you'll know what to do." I hadn't known what he meant. I thought it was about insurance, maybe the pension. But this wasn't just insurance. This was a door. The next morning, I dressed early, made coffee, wrote a note, and left it in the kitchen. Gone for errands. Back later. I caught the bus downtown, wore my oldest coat, sat near the exit. I didn't want anyone asking questions. At the bank, I walked up to the desk and asked for Mr. Greer. The teller blinked. "He's semi-retired, but still takes select clients." "Do you have an appointment?" "I have this," I said, and placed the key on the counter. She stared at it for a second, picked up the phone, spoke quietly. 10 minutes later, a man in his 60s, pressed suit, calm eyes, came out and said my name like he already knew it. Mavis Graceland. I nodded. He led me to a room in the back. Cool lighting, thick door, no sound. The deposit box slid open smooth. Inside a folder, a sealed envelope, a blue velvet pouch, one labeled USB. I sat down. My hands shook. Mr. Greer stayed silent as I opened the folder. Deed, investment reports, copies of beneficiary transfers, a notarized letter signed by my husband dated 11 years ago. In the event of my death, if our son Nathan proves financially reckless or is found to be under the control of a third party with intentions to claim property or liquidate assets, full controlling interest passes to Mavis Graceland. She may act without prior approval or consultation from any surviving heirs. My mouth went dry. The letter continued. Bullet points, conditions, terms, all in my favor. He'd prepared for this. For them. I looked at the USB. "What's on this?" Mr. Greer folded his hands. "Recordings. One from your husband. One from our last meeting before he passed. He insisted it stay here unless you came in yourself." I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I took the envelope. My husband's handwriting. "Mavis, if you're reading this, they crossed a line. So, now it's your move. Don't wait too long." I pressed the letter to my lap. Closed my eyes. Something inside me settled. I wasn't powerless. I just hadn't stepped in yet. I asked Mr. Greer, "Can I take copies of everything?" He nodded. "Or I can send them to your legal rep." Quietly. I paused, then handed him the card I'd kept from a neighbor's referral scribbled last year when Sierra joked about putting me in a facility. Halperin and Field, Elder Legal Protection. Ask for Halperin. He read it, nodded once. "I'll contact them today." I signed the form fast. Greer slid the second key into the box, turned it, and pulled it out. Inside, no dust, no confusion, just order. First the deed. Original. No cosigner. My name alone transferred by Joel a year before he died. Second, 5 dividend checks uncashed. Quiet money, the kind you forget if you're not watching. Third, a thick document marked with a blue sticker and a typed header that stopped me cold. Post-spousal asset instruction. Exclusive to Mavis. I didn't speak. I didn't blink. Greer stayed still. "Would you like to review here or take a sealed copy?" I said. "But original stays here." "For now." He nodded, slipped on gloves, sealed everything with fresh paper, double folder, brass fasteners, a layer of weight I could feel in my hands. "This proves ownership beyond contest," he said. "If they try to move on the house or shift you out, this holds." I know. I held the folder close like armor. Outside, the sun hit harder than I expected. The sidewalk felt loud. I clutched my coat tighter, crossed 2 streets, and caught the bus back without thinking. At home, the lights were on. No one in the living room. No one in the kitchen. I slipped through quiet, opened the hallway closet, reached up high behind the sewing kit above the extra towels, the small, fireproof safe. I opened it with the old code Joel once chose, 1928, his father's birth year. He never forgot. The metal clicked open. Inside was a single envelope, our original will outdated. I placed the new folder beside it, then added the key from the deposit box, the USB, and a new password on a yellow sticky note, "Do not speak." I shut the lid, turned the lock, reset the code. Then I stood still. All this time, they thought I was holding on to scraps, clinging to furniture, taking up space, but I was holding the foundation. Every brick, every corner, every inch of this house ran through my name. I made a pot of coffee, let it sit hot and black on the counter. They came home an hour later, bickering about dry cleaning and dinner. Nathan passed me without a glance. Sierra opened the fridge, sighed. "Didn't you get groceries? I poured my coffee." Didn't answer. I sat in the kitchen chair, my chair, and held the mug close. I wasn't ready to speak, not yet. But I didn't feel small anymore. Sierra tossed a manila envelope on the kitchen counter. "We're applying for a loan," she said. "Remodeling the back, maybe open up the dining space." I sipped my coffee. Nathan walked in, pen in hand. "Just need your signature here," he said, then grinned, or well, already handled it. "Just a formality now." He waved the page like it was a party invite. I didn't move. He placed it flat. "I signed for you. We needed to move fast. Got a guy from Sierra's gym, knows finance, said this place could double in value with the right upgrades." I stared at the paper. My name, my signature, but not my hand. He'd copied it from an old document. Sloppy, tilted wrong. I let my eyes skim the form. Loan estimate, attached equity, proposed changes, authorization, all tied to my property. I said nothing, just nodded. Once. Sierra beamed. "See, easy." Nathan clapped the counter. "Told you Mom wouldn't make it a thing." They left the envelope. I waited until they disappeared into the living room. Then I picked it up, slid it into my own folder, and took a photo of every page. Forgery, unauthorized signature, intent to use personal asset without consent. I printed a second copy, labeled it in red ink, filed without authorization, 419, then locked it in the safe. Later that night, I heard them laughing about tile colors and a kitchen island. Something about finally making this place feel like theirs. I stood at the hallway edge, lights off. Nathan said, "Once it's in motion, she can't stop it. She's too passive." Sierra snorted. "She's lucky we're even letting her stay." I went back to my room, sat on the edge of the bed, opened my notebook. I wrote a name, Howard Greer. Then a second, Halperin, elder fraud case. Then a third, bank loan ID 4739FJ. The next morning, I walked to the library, printed copies, highlighted everything in yellow, faxed them to Halperin's office. When the clerk asked if I needed confirmation, I said yes. He handed me the slip. I folded it, tucked it into my wallet. Then I walked home, made another pot of coffee, and waited. I walked in early. No music, no reception, just carpet that muted footsteps and a desk with a blinking red light. A man stepped out after 2 minutes, mid-50s, gray coat, glasses low on his nose, no tie. "Ms. Graceland." "Yes, I'm Halperin." We shook hands. His grip was firm, not friendly. Like he worked in truth, not comfort. He closed the office door behind me, gestured to the chair. I sat. He didn't. "Show me," he said. I handed over the folder, the forged form, the fax receipt, the deed, the will. He scanned in silence, page by page, didn't take notes, just read fast. At one point, he stopped and traced a line on the loan form with his finger, then looked up. "Your son's handwriting, yes. And this signature isn't yours." "No." He kept going. Finally, he set the last page down and looked at me. "Long. You've been quiet a very long time, Ms. Graceland." I nodded. He pulled a yellow legal pad from his drawer, wrote one sentence. Then he smiled. It wasn't warm. It was sharp. "We'll let them think they've won," he said. "Just a little longer." My hands unclenched for the first time in days. "Will they face charges?" I asked. "If you want, but I'd recommend leverage first." Leverage evidence held, pressure applied, the kind of silence that makes people sweat. I nodded once. "Good." He leaned back. "Here's how this will work. You do nothing. Let them keep moving. Let them feel bold." I said nothing. "You'll get a call from me in a few days. I'll loop in Mr. Greer, but quietly. Once the loan is formally filed, we'll freeze it." He handed me back a copy of everything, bound and stamped. And what about the deed? He tapped it. Untouchable. But we'll let them think it's not. I slid the file into my bag. Stood. "You'll call, I always do," he said. "But I never call first." "They do?" I left the office. Outside, the air felt lighter, cold but clean. I didn't stop for coffee. I didn't stop at the store. I went straight home. Opened the door. They were in the kitchen again, talking backsplash and storage space. I walked past them like I didn't hear. Poured myself a cup. Sat in the living room chair, the one they once moved to the garage without asking. Sipped. Waited. I heard his footsteps before he spoke, heavy, impatient, the kind that always meant he wanted something. Mavis Nathan said, leaning against the doorway, "We're applying for a card." "Just give us your PIN, it's easier." He said it like he was asking for salt, like it was nothing. I kept my eyes on the cutting board. "Slice through the apple clean?" "I don't remember it," I said. He groaned, loud, performed. "Mom, come on, you always remember everything. Just tell me the number." I set the knife down. "It slips my mind lately." He rolled his eyes hard. "Convenient." I picked up my phone, turned it slightly, hit record with the side of my thumb. He didn't notice. Of course he didn't. He never looked at me long enough to see anything. He stepped closer. "Look, Sierra and I are trying to get things organized. We're basically managing this place. You should be grateful. Just give me the damn PIN." I dried my hands slowly, letting him talk. He kept going. "We need one card, not 3. All these little accounts you have, it's confusing. Let us consolidate. It's for your own good. I finally met his eyes. For my good? He shrugged. Well, yeah. You're not getting younger. My jaw tightened. I forced my breath steady. I'll reset it later, I said. When I remember. He threw his arms up. This is ridiculous. You're making this harder than it has to be. Then he grabbed the dish towel, wiped his hands on it like he'd done something strenuous, and walked out of the kitchen. My phone kept recording long after he left. I replayed the audio once his tone, his entitlement, the phrase, "You're not getting younger," then saved it in 2 folders, one on the phone, one in the cloud. I labeled it with today's date. I tucked the phone into my pocket and took another slow breath. This wasn't just pressure. This was a pattern, a push to make me surrender small things until the whole house fell in their favor. He still thought I'd fold. I stepped into the hallway, heard him in the living room complaining to Sierra. She's impossible. I don't know why she's holding on to all this stuff. Sierra laughed lightly. Give her time. She'll break. They always break when the bills pile up. My grip tightened on my phone. I turned away. Walked back to the bedroom they pushed me into. Closed the door quietly. Sat on the edge of the bed, the sunlight falling across the carpet in thin lines. I took out my notebook. Added a new line beneath all the others. Attempted coercion. Pin demand. 4:12 p.m. Recorded. Then I opened the safe, checked the folder, felt the weight of the deed, the will, the instructions Joel left behind. I placed the recording next to them in my mind, another stone added to the quiet wall I was building. Tomorrow, I would need a new step. I asked Greer to meet me again. He didn't question why. Just opened the door, led me back, locked it behind us. The same box. The same quiet. But this time he reached further inside. There's one more thing, he said, pulling out a sealed envelope I hadn't seen before. Yellowed slightly at the edges. My name handwritten across the front in Joel's firm, neat hand. Mavis only open when your silence becomes too heavy to carry. I sat. Tore it open clean, inside a single page. Dated 9 months before his stroke. Addendum to last will and testament. In the event our son Nathan Graceland demonstrates financial exploitation, coercion or emotional manipulation, full legal and physical ownership of all remaining assets will transfer solely to Mavis Graceland without contest or equalization. My wife will know when it's time. This document overrides all previous versions of the will in the above instance. Signed Joel F. Graceland. Witnessed and notarized. I didn't cry. I just held it. Read it twice. Then again. Greer didn't speak until I looked up. He filed it separately. Told me you might not need it. But if you did, he wanted no doubt. I folded the letter slowly. And now, he nodded. Now it becomes insurance. Or a weapon. I slid it into my coat pocket. Deep, warm. Pressed to my side. Make a certified copy, I said. File it. He already had the copier ready. While he worked, I paced the room once. My steps were heavier now, but not from grief, from weight, from clarity. Joel hadn't abandoned me to this. He had watched, predicted, prepared, and now I held every piece. On the way out, Greer handed me the sealed duplicate in a plain envelope. Your move, Mrs. Graceland. I nodded once. I walked out into the chill. The wind didn't bite like before. I didn't go straight home. I stopped at the lawyer's office. Halperin met me in the back, laid the letter flat. Read it. Whistled under his breath. This alone could end it, he said. Not yet. Why? Because I want them to see it, not hear it. He understood. Then we keep watching. That night, I made dinner. They didn't thank me. Didn't ask if I wanted any. I cleaned alone. Later in bed, I ran my hand over the envelope one more time. Tucked it under my pillow. Tomorrow, I'd move a little closer. I walked into the precinct with my coat zipped to the neck and my hands steady. The officer at the desk looked up. "How can I help you, ma'am?" "I need to file a report," I said. "A verbal threat from a family member." He didn't blink, just pushed a clipboard toward me. I filled out every line, date, time, exact words. "I'll show you what happens when a mother forgets her place." When I handed it back, he read it once, then nodded. "We'll keep this on file. If anything escalates, call immediately." That was all I needed. No drama. No flashing lights. Just a timestamp. Outside, the air stung my cheeks. I walked straight to Halperin's office next. He didn't waste time. "You're ready to move," he said, when I handed him the new documents. "Not yet," I answered. "I'm setting the edges." He smiled faintly at that. "Then let's sharpen them." He pulled out the deed, checked the dates, verified the witness signatures, then tapped the last page. "This is airtight. They can't touch the house. In fact, any attempt to leverage it now qualifies as fraud." "I assumed," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You assumed right." I took the deed back and placed it in my bag, like I was putting down porcelain. Next came the recordings. One from the kitchen, one from the hallway, one from last night, when Sierra muttered, "She'll hand it over eventually, she's too old to fight." I played that one for Halperin. He nodded slowly. "You're building a clean case." "I'm building a record," I corrected. He leaned back. "You're calmer than most clients in your situation." I looked him straight in the eye. "Calm isn't weakness." He gave a small, approving nod. "Keep documenting. Anything you observe, anything you hear, any signature you didn't authorize. Everything counts. And don't confront them yet." "I won't. And don't break routine. I won't do that either." He slid a white business card toward me. "This number rings my private line. You won't need it often." "I know." I left his office and caught the bus home. The city moved around me, cars, honking, people arguing on sidewalks, someone pushing a stroller through slush. But inside, I felt nothing except clarity. When I stepped through the front door, Sierra was rearranging living room pillows like she had somewhere important to be. Nathan sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Neither of them looked up. Perfect. I walked to the kitchen, started a new pot of coffee. Nathan glanced up, then frowning. "You're in a good mood." "I am," I said. He studied me like the words didn't fit. Sierra paused, head-tilted eyes narrowing in suspicion she couldn't quite place. I stirred sugar into my mug and smiled at both of them. Not wide, not soft, just steady. A kind of smile they weren't used to. A kind that didn't ask for permission. Later that night, I sat in bed and listened to the house breathe, pipes, settling wind, tapping the windows, a door clicking shut down the hall. I wrote in my notebook again. Report filed. Deed confirmed. Deed. Evidence growing. Then I closed it, placed it beside the safe, and lay back. Tomorrow they would make their next move. Nathan slammed a folder on the table. "This is the final copy. Sign it or move out." I didn't flinch. Poured myself coffee instead. He leaned closer. "We're done waiting. Sierra's parents are selling their condo. They're moving in here next month." I stirred slowly. "Here?" He nodded, impatient. "They need help. Sierra wants them close. They'll take the front rooms. You can stay if you cooperate. If not, I sipped. If not, I leave." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I glanced at the papers. Same lies. Same forged numbers dressed as formality. "Let me think about it," I said. He scoffed. "There's nothing to think about. It's a yes or a no." I smiled. "Not too wide." "Then give me a day." He blinked, thrown for a second by how easily I accepted the pressure. Behind him, Sierra stood watching, arms folded, like a queen waiting for a servant to bend. I turned back to the coffee, adding a pinch of cinnamon the way Joel used to like it. Nathan muttered something under his breath and stormed down the hall. I heard a door slam. I waited, counted to 30. Then I took the folder, photocopied every page, marked the date, and slipped the originals back in place. By dinner, they were acting like it was already done. Sierra called a contractor on speakerphone parading plans about custom tile and dual sinks, like they'd already been installed. I nodded along, chewing slowly, cleaning up quietly, listening more than I spoke. They still thought I was soft. That night, I stood at the living room window, watching headlights drift past the curb. I thought about the way Sierra said stay if you cooperate, as if I were the intruder. I walked to my room, opened the notebook, wrote remodel ultimatum, threat delivered, 7:22 p.m. Then I checked the safe. Deed, will, audio files, addendum from Joel, all there, all lined up. And now, so was their intent in writing, in voice, in pressure. I looked over the copies of the loan form again. This time, I highlighted 3 new phrases. Co-ownership clause, power of attorney assumption, failure to sign as consent to vacate. They were digging fast, confident, too confident. I sealed everything into a yellow envelope and labeled it in red pre-trigger. Hold until contact tomorrow. I'd let them think they'd won another inch. I opened my laptop fast before the house fully woke. The inbox glowed. Halperin had sent a short confirmation at dawn. Attached property ownership under Mavis Graceland only. Filed and verified. I read it twice. Then again. The words steadied me more than the coffee beside my hand. I clicked forward, typed Sierra's email, hovered over the send button, 1 tap, 1 slip. That's all I needed. I added a single line at the top. Thought this was the contractor, quote, my mistake. Then hit send. The email whooshed out clean and sharp. I closed the laptop and waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Silence. Then footsteps, fast footsteps came down the hall. Sierra's voice higher than normal. Mavis, she called. I wiped the counter, didn't look up. She stepped into the kitchen holding her phone like it had burned her. What is this? She asked. I don't know. What is it? This email. You sent it to me. Did I? I was sorting things this morning. She stared at me like she couldn't figure out the shape of my face. She looked back at the screen. The property. Ownership under your name only. What is this about? I washed a spoon. Well, I said quietly. It sounds like what it says. She blinked. You don't own the whole house. I dried my hands. Don't I? She swallowed hard. Her voice shook around the edges. Nathan said he said the house was shared. He said your husband left the house to me. Alone. I shrugged lightly. Some things get lost in translation. She didn't speak. Just stood there holding that little rectangle of glass like it was the first time the world told her no. Finally, she moved. Turned on her heel. Stormed toward the living room. Nathan, she shouted. We have a problem. I remained where I was. Poured myself another cup. Their voices rose, sharp, rushed. Fragments cutting through the hallway. You said he left it to both of you. She's bluffing. This is a legal document. How would she even know? She must be confused. Then why is it stamped? Just give me the phone. I heard the thud of a cabinet door. The shuffle of papers. The panic settling under their words like a second pulse. I stayed in the kitchen. Sipped my coffee. Waited for the breath of silence that always comes after denial collapses. It came faster than I expected. Then Nathan appeared in the doorway, his face pale, his jaw tight. Why did you send that he demanded? I told you, I said. Calmly. It was an accident. You're lying. About sending it. No. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. He was drowning in confusion and pride, in the sudden realization that something had slipped out of his grip. Mom, he said finally, softer. You know this will complicate our plans. Our plans. Plural. As if I had ever been included. I suppose it will, I said. He exhaled through his nose sharp. We'll talk later. Sierra and I need to fix this. I nodded once and left the kitchen. Walked down the hall, closed my bedroom door behind me, sat on the edge of the bed, and smiled for real this time. Not out of spite. Not out of triumph. Just from the knowledge that the ground they thought was solid had started to shift quietly, precisely under their own feet. I pulled out the yellow envelope from the safe. Tomorrow, I would let something else slip. I folded the napkins first. White linen, crisp edges, no stains. Sierra wanted everything perfect. She'd spent the day barking orders and fluffing pillows. Nathan barely looked at me. His silence now. A thin layer of performance. He thought if he kept his mouth shut, maybe it would all fix itself. I sliced the roast, arranged the dishes, wiped the wine glasses twice. At 6 sharp, the doorbell rang. Neighbors filed in. Her parents, a co-worker or two I didn't recognize. Everyone brought something. Cheese platters, wine bottles, compliments for Sierra. I stood by the sink as she floated around in beige heels calling me Mavis with a practiced warmth. This is Nathan's mother, she said to one couple. She lives with us. Lives with us. Not this is her home. Not, she raised Nathan. Not she owns this house. Just, she lives with us. I smiled and poured drinks. At the table, every seat was labeled with a tiny handwritten card. Mine was missing. Sierra came over arm-looped through her mother's. Would you mind helping serve first? She asked. Tone soft but sharp underneath. Of course, I said. I moved between the kitchen and the dining room, set down plates, refilled water, replaced dropped napkins. The roast got compliments. Nathan barely acknowledged I made it. No one offered me a seat. They didn't notice I hadn't eaten. Didn't ask where I was going when I slipped down the hallway. Didn't see me stop at my room, grab the brown folder, and tuck it into my coat. I walked out the back door. Quiet. Slow. Left the noise behind. The front of the house glowed like a showroom, but out here in the dark, it felt truer. Empty. Cold. Ready. I got in the car, started it, drove down the street. The courthouse drop box was still open when I arrived. I slid the envelope inside. Property dispute Mavis Graceland versus Nathan Graceland, Sierra Graceland. Supporting documents enclosed. Then I stood there a minute, my fingers still grazing the edge of the metal slot. Inside the folder had been a certified copy of the deed, the audio clip of Nathan's threat, the signed will addendum, a written timeline of recent coercion. The remodeling loan form they'd tried to force Halperin had said, only drop it when you want the clock to start. I had. It was ticking now. I got back in the car, drove 2 blocks, parked outside the neighbor's house. Agnes opened the door before I could knock. Mavis, she asked, blinking at my coat. My face. Mind if I wait here an hour? She stepped aside. You don't even have to ask. I sat on her couch while the party played out back home. From here, it looked so far away, small, shrinking. By the time I returned, most of the guests had left. The dishes were stacked, the music off. Nathan and Sierra were in the kitchen, whispering sharply about cleanup. I walked in, said nothing, began loading the dishwasher. Sierra said, "Did you eat?" I said I wasn't hungry. Nathan didn't look at me. I turned off the faucet, wiped my hands dry. Tomorrow I would speak, but tonight I wanted them to feel the silence wrap tighter. The knock came just after 9, sharp, direct, no hesitation. Sierra opened the door, still in her robe, coffee in hand. The man at the door wore gray slacks, dark jacket, no expression. "Courier," he said. "Delivery for Mr. and Mrs. Graceland." Nathan stepped in, signed without reading, and ripped the envelope open. Silence. Then, "What the hell is this?" He read it again. Louder, slower, angrier. Eviction notice. What is this? Sierra grabbed it from his hand, scanned the pages, her face drained. I walked in from the hallway, towel over my shoulder, hair still damp. He turned toward me, eyes wild. Mom, what is this? It's an official notice, I said. You'll find the county seal on page 3. You're evicting us. I didn't answer. Another knock. Nathan flinched. This time I opened the door. Halperin stepped inside. Calm, dressed for war. He held a folder under one arm and a flat leather case in the other. Mr. and Mrs. Graceland, he said, nodding once. I'm here on behalf of my client, Ms. Mavis Graceland. Nathan sputtered. She can't do this. This is our house. Halperin opened the folder, held up the deed. This property, he said, tapping the corner of the notarized page, belongs to Ms. Graceland. Solely. It has never been in your name. There was no shared title, no transfer of ownership, no marriage clause. Sierra stepped back. Her lip trembled. Nathan's voice cracked. But she lives here with us. She let you stay, Halperin said. That was her kindness, not your right. He pulled out the second document. You also signed loan applications using her forged signature. We have copies. She's filed reports, and as of this week filed a legal action to formally reclaim her property rights and evict all unauthorized occupants. Sierra dropped her coffee. It shattered. Nathan moved toward me. You wouldn't actually make us leave. I looked at him for a long moment. No, I said. He stared, breath short. Hands shaking. Where are we supposed to go? I tilted my head. Did you ask me that when you said Sierra's parents would be moving in? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Sierra turned to Halperin. We have rights. You have 30 days, Halperin replied. That's what you have. Nathan looked back at the eviction letter, like it might magically change if he read it hard enough. Halperin turned to me. I'll wait outside Ms. Graceland. Just let me know when you're ready. I nodded. He stepped out. Sierra backed into the kitchen, mumbling something about calling her father. Nathan still hadn't moved. Just stared at me like I was someone he'd never seen before. And maybe, for the first time, I was. I walked past him, opened the cabinet, pulled out the mug. They never touched the one Joel gave me years ago. It read, Graceland House, Eastern 1991. I filled it with coffee, sat at the table. Nathan whispered, You planned this. I took a sip. He was right. And it wasn't over yet. I handed them the revised notice myself. 7 days, no extensions, no negotiations. Nathan stared at the paper like it was written in a language he didn't understand. Sierra pressed her hand to her forehead, whispering something about her parents. Her plans, the unfairness of it all. I didn't respond. I walked past them, set my coffee mug on the counter, and started rinsing a plate as if the world hadn't just shifted beneath their feet. The phone started ringing before breakfast ended. Nathan's number first. Then Sierra's. Then a number I didn't recognize, her mother, no doubt. I let all of them slip into voicemail. By noon, the house had a strange stillness. Not peace, not tension. Something in between, like a storm had already landed, and they were only now realizing it wasn't passing. Nathan hovered outside my door, once his shadow stretching under the frame. He didn't knock. He just stood there. I kept reading. Didn't move. Didn't let the floor creak. Eventually, he stepped back. I heard him whisper, She's really doing this. Sierra's voice rose behind him, sharp, desperate. Fix it. She can't just kick us out. She's your mother. I'm trying, he hissed. She won't talk. I closed the book. Good. The next day they were quieter. Stress clung to them like humidity. Nathan paced the living room. Sierra retreated to the bedroom, calling anyone who might know a loophole. I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook, made lists, checked dates, prepared receipts for Halperin. At one point, Sierra stormed in cheeks, blotchy eyes rimmed red. "Mavis," she said, voice trembling. "This isn't right. We don't have anywhere to go this fast. Can't we talk? Just talk." I took a sip of coffee. "I already gave you the notice. But you could reconsider." "I could," I said, "but I won't." She stared like she expected a crack in my voice, some sign of guilt, a tremble, anything. She found none. She backed away, shoulders sagging, muttering, "I don't understand you." She didn't have to. That evening, they both tried calling again. I sat on the couch phone face down beside me, listening to the muffled rings from the bedroom walls. They called through dinner. They called after midnight. They called before dawn. I never picked up. Silence filled the hallway, thick and heavy. The next morning, Sierra's father knocked on the door. Nathan let him in. They argued in low, frantic tones about timelines, storage deposits options. I heard every word. I made another pot of coffee. The kitchen filled with the warm, steady smell of something familiar. Something mine. Their voices carried down the hall, fear, irritation, disbelief, all braided together. Nathan's voice broke once. "She's acting like she doesn't care," Sierra's father answered bluntly. "She doesn't. She's done with you." I didn't smile. I just stood at the sink washing dishes that no one but me noticed. By the 6th day, boxes appeared. Tape. Trash bags. Clothes piled on the couch they once guarded like a throne. Sierra cried quietly. Nathan cursed under his breath. Their footsteps were softer now, as if the house itself no longer belonged to them. They were right. On the 7th morning, I watched from the kitchen window as they loaded the last of their things into the trunk. The silence inside the hallway pressed deeper. Not empty, not lonely, just returned. Nathan lingered by the door keys in hand, eyes unfocused. I didn't speak. He walked out without looking back. And I knew this wasn't the end, only the next beginning. She showed up the next day in full makeup and a fake smile. "Hi, Mavis," she said, voice light, sickly sweet. "Just wanted to drop by and say thank you. No hard feelings, okay?" I didn't open the screen door, just looked at her through it. She kept going. "Nathan and we've had a rough week. But maybe we rushed things. Maybe we could come to some arrangement. I've been thinking we could—" I didn't answer. She blinked. Her hands fluttered. "We are family. Still nothing from me." She stared for a second too long, her jaw tightening, then let out a dry laugh and walked back to the car. 3 hours later, she returned. Less charm, more edge. "We're not going to let this stand," she said through the door. "You think you're so clever with your folders and your lawyer and your smug little smirk. But we'll fight this. You'll regret it." I didn't move. She pressed her face closer to the screen. "I know people, and I know how this looks. You kicking your own son out? People talk, Mavis. What are they saying about you right now?" I reached beside the door, clicked the recorder on. Her words kept pouring out, uglier now, sloppier. Threats laced with desperation. "I gave up everything to be here," she snapped. "I put up with you. And now you're acting like this was all yours to begin with. You think this makes you strong? It makes you a bitter, lonely old clique." I shut the inner door. 10 minutes later, the email was sent to Halpern. Subject line follow-up. Audio evidence attached. He didn't reply. Just sent paperwork the next day. The file title read, "Restraining Order Prep, Draft 1. I printed it. Slipped it into my folder. Filed it alphabetically. Sierra came back again the next night. No makeup. No heels. Her face was streaked with tears, hair pinned back in a hurry. She didn't knock. Just stood on the porch like a child locked out of school. "I don't have anywhere else to go," she said softly. Her voice cracked. "I told my parents we were fine. I lied to them. I lied to everyone. You can't just leave me out here like this." She looked around, searching for pity in windows that offered none. I opened the door halfway, held my phone steady in one hand. "Please," she whispered, "just for a night. Just one night." My hand never moved. The phone recorded. "I'm not proud," she said, "but I need help." Her voice lowered, eyes full of performance. "I'm still family." I hit stop on the recorder and closed the door. No shouting, no insults this time, just the soft thud of her leaving. I emailed the new recording to Halpern. Attached to it a short note. "She's trying again." An hour later, he replied. 2 words received, logged. No advice, no reaction. Just the quiet machinery of consequences grinding forward, unbothered by tears or sweetened voices. I sat at the table and opened the file marked Final Motions. My signature went on every page. Not as a mother, not as a guest, as the owner, as the woman they tried to erase. He walked in without knocking, no bags, no papers. Just a face I used to know. He sat down at the kitchen table like it still belonged to him. Like he hadn't signed it all away the day he handed Sierra my place in this house. I didn't offer coffee. He stared at the surface of the table, ran his hand across it, slow, nostalgic. "This table's older than me," he said. I nodded. He didn't look up. "You used to let me sit on the counter when I was sick." I didn't answer. He finally spoke the line he'd come for. "You were never proud of me." The words just sat there heavy and hollow, waiting to sting. I didn't flinch. "No," I said quietly. "I was." He blinked. "Until you thought pride meant ownership." He froze. "You thought I owed you something for being my son. You thought sacrifice gave you claim. That every choice I made for your sake was a down payment on obedience." He looked away. I kept going. "You weren't raised to steal from me. You weren't raised to lie, but you did both, repeatedly." He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "You threatened me for money. You watched your wife throw out my birthday cake, silence me at my own dinner table, erase me from the very house I gave you. And you stood there, or worse, helped." I didn't mean he started. "You meant every word you said on that call," I cut in. I kept the recording. I sent it to Halpern. "It's in the file." He slumped forward, elbows on the table. I didn't comfort him. He sat there breathing hard. "When Sierra said she needed the room, I didn't argue, I continued. When you told me to sign forms I hadn't seen, I stayed quiet. You took my silence as weakness." It wasn't. He looked up, eyes rimmed red. "So this is it?" "No," I said. "This was it a long time ago. You just didn't see it." Silence. Only the hum of the fridge behind us. "I miss Dad," he said finally. "Me too. I wish he were here." I stood, walked over to the cabinet, opened the top shelf, pulled down a folder with Joel's handwriting on it. "I found this in the deposit box," I said. He updated the will. "You know what it said?" He didn't answer. I read aloud. "In the event our son Nathan proves unfit, all assets. Default solely to Mavis. You'll know when it's time." I looked him straight in the eye. It was time. He stared at the page, mouth tight, shoulders sagging. He looked like someone who had finally found the wall at the end of a long, self-made tunnel. He wiped his face with both hands. "I didn't come here to beg. I know. I came to say sorry." I nodded once. "But I also came to ask if there's any way you'd reconsider." I placed the folder back in the cabinet. "No," I said gently. "There isn't." He didn't argue. He just stood up slower this time, less defiant, less anything. He reached the door, paused, then turned back. What should I tell her? I tilted my head. Tell her she should have brought a cake. He left, and I stood there still holding the coffee mug that never left my hand. I moved room to room with a box in my hands, and no one in sight. The house was quiet. Not like before, tense and sharp, but quiet like peace, like closure. I opened each cabinet slowly, not to check for things, but to say goodbye. Goodbye to the dishes I bought in 1987 when Joel got his bonus. Goodbye to the chipped mug Nathan made in school, now hidden behind a row of glass cups. Goodbye to the sewing drawer no one but me ever touched. I kept the box small, deliberate, just what needed to be said without words. I slipped in the photo from the lake trip, Nathan's smiling wet hair clinging to his forehead, Sierra in the background, pretending not to care. One of the few days we'd all laughed without performance. Then the envelope. A copy of the updated Will Joel's handwriting crisp final. I didn't add notes, didn't highlight the lines. If he wanted to understand it now, he'd have to read the whole thing like he should have before. Last, the receipt. Printed on plain thermal paper. From the hardware store. The date was stamped clean March 2nd. The day he called. The day he said he'd hit me if I didn't give him my PIN. That afternoon I'd gone out and bought the first lockbox I saw. The cashier had said, planning a move, I had said nothing. I folded the receipt, placed it gently inside. 3 items. That's all it took to define the boundary between memory and record. Love rewritten into evidence. I sealed the box with clear tape. No ribbon, no message. Just his name written in black marker on the top flap. Nathan. I placed it on the kitchen table. His table now. Let him decide what to do with it. The fridge hummed. The sun through the window caught the edge of the faucet, throwing light across the counter like a blade. I ran my hand across the wall as I walked to the front door, touched the trim where Joel had marked Nathan's height. There were 3 notches, age 5, 6, and 10. Then nothing. Growth stopped, not in inches, but in character. I didn't cry. I opened the front door, stepped outside, and closed it softly behind me. Not a slam, not a statement. Just a door doing what it was made to do. The car was packed. My bag sat in the back seat. Halperin had already called the realtor. The next family wouldn't know the story. Just the square footage. I started the engine, let it idle. Then I turned back once. Not for the house, for the choice I had made, and the version of me I had finally left behind. The one who baked cakes for silence. The one who shrank for peace. She wasn't coming. The driveway cracked under the wheels as I pulled out. Slow, calm. No one ran after me. No hands waved from the porch. No voice begged me to stay. Just the sun, the road, the turn, and the next chapter, waiting. I open the screen door and step onto the porch barefoot. The wood is warm under my feet. Faint scent of pine in the air. Somewhere down the road, someone's mowing. Birds argue in a nearby tree. I sit. No voices, no footsteps. No one asking what's for dinner or where I've put the paperwork. Just the hum of a quiet life. The coffee in my mug has gone cold twice this week because I forget to drink it. I'm too busy listening to silence. Not the kind that punishes. The kind that lets you breathe. The mug in my hand is chipped. The words on it still clear. Still here. I bought it at a gas station. $3.25. It was sitting on a dusty shelf behind the register, next to a pair of keychains and an old pack of mints. I didn't think. I just picked it up. It fit in my hand like something I should have always had. I sip. The porch creaks a little when I lean back. This place isn't fancy. 1 bedroom, no granite, no guest suite for ungrateful sons, just enough for me and peace. Halperin found it. Said I think this one feels like a beginning, not an escape. He was right. I kept the deed in the same safe where Joel's note used to live. Different name on this one, though. Just mine. A letter came yesterday. Nathan's handwriting. I didn't open it. I burned it in the sink before coffee. No need to hear what panic sounds like when it tries to dress itself in guilt. I've heard enough versions of sorry to know the ones that come from hunger not change. Sierra sent a friend request online. Her profile photo was still from last year designer dress forced smile Nathan's hand around her shoulder, like ownership. I declined. A hummingbird hovers near the porch rail watching me like I'm new to the planet. Maybe I am. New to this version of myself, this life, this breath that doesn't come with conditions. I think of Joel sometimes, not in pain, not in memory, in presence. When I found that will, I realized he knew me better than I gave him credit for. He didn't write that clause because he doubted Nathan. He wrote it because he believed I'd know when enough was enough. He trusted I'd wake up. And I did. The mug warms my palm as the breeze shifts. I left no instructions, no final warning, no dramatic note, just facts and consequences. That house will sell in a month. The proceeds are mine. They can fight if they want, but the paper trail is clean, the silence even cleaner. I have a grocery list on the fridge and a tomato plant I haven't managed to kill yet. Every morning, I sit here. Still. Here. And every morning, I remember there's no need to scream when truth already speaks louder than noise. I drink. The sky doesn't rush me. The wind doesn't ask who I was. It just passes through like me, like the last version of myself finally leaving.